Yeah,
now be recorded.
I think you have to recording again. Can you please stop?
Okay, so now done. Now we will start up with our application and let's see.
Hello.
Yeah, hi Kishore, tell me.
Yeah, I think recording is disabled. Can you please check? I will.
No, I just enabled.
Hello.
Is it recording is in progress? So
Hello.
now we are going to develop, we will see the application. Hmm.
Hello.
Yeah, man, Kishore, the recording has already been started. Second time, just a moment. Right. So let's create a simple Spring application and we'll work on it now. So to create a Spring application, there are two ways we can create a simple Spring application. We have already a Spring application with the Eclipse. We can create with the Maven. If it is a Maven, I don't need to add jar files manually. But without Maven, I'm going to show you. And then later I'll also show you with the Maven also. This is our first Spring application. Yeah, here. Come on. I'm importing the application instead of what we have seen. Okay. Now let me import it and let's see. Import, import. Yeah, got imported. I'm changing the name refactor. I renamed it as first Spring application. You know how to import a project, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you import your build path, it will take from there. But we want locally what is the build path we have. We have JDK 6 or something we have. So those things I'll add. And the jar files also, you need to have a locally added. There are three required jar files: core, bean, Apache login. So these things, they are just trying to get me, but they're not available. I need to add it manually. Let me, I've imported already the jar files. Yesterday I've shown you the jar files like we have in the same page. We have in the same page, you will be
Yeah.
having Spring core jars. So the core jars are for to run this only this application. If I want to run in the Spring application, we have all the jar files, but only we need only core jar files. This is the only one which we require. I've already
Okay.
downloaded them, so I will configure them to my project now. And now let me open my job files. Spring jar, okay, jars, Spring jars. You can take higher version also. That's not a problem. We are working on 3. If you have 4 also, that doesn't matter. Apply because they are latest. The latest one supports the
The
previous version.
previous version.
Now we are done with this. That means I cannot see any errors. The application is got imported successfully with adding jar files. Now the thing is we have one class as we have discussed student class, and this class containing only a name. But I would like to take another field also, private string. This I'll take it as yes name, and this I'll take it as F name. Student name and father name. Later we'll write it as a proper way. Father underscore name, student underscore name. So these are the two fields what I have. So you know how to generate setters
Yep.
and getters, right?
Yeah.
I'm to selecting select all and say generate setters and getters for the given fields. That's done. Jyoti, I have written two properties, and for those two properties, I am trying to print the values in the SOP. Okay,
It's
so we'll
display
call that.
info, right?
I'm sorry.
It's display info. The method name should be display info. That is what is written in
It's not a
test Java.
problem. We'll change it. We'll give some other name. What would be there?
Okay.
Hmm? What is the first property we have? S underscore name, right? And what would be the next property? That is S underscore, sorry, F underscore father, no, father underscore name. That's it. We have these two properties, F's name and father. Okay, so in the test, we'll call that method. That is, we'll call it as display. Perfect. Any changes we require now in the application context.xml, we need to set the properties values, right? So why we are using application context.xml, we would like to inject the values by means of a third thing. So what we are doing is they have this one, and the property name is, what is the property name? F underscore name. So the name we will write it as right. Okay, so and the next property, I'm sorry, this is not the property, this is a name. Property name equals to, the next property we have is
Father name.
for the name value, something like that, right? I will set it name, s name, and for the name. Now test. So I would like to run the application. Run the application. If everything goes fine, it will get the values from the student. Purna Kodala Prasad.
Yeah.
Makes sense? So
Yeah.
this is what we have done. Spring basic application. Okay. Without any annotations.
Mm-hmm.
Without any annotations. No annotations, nothing, we have done it. Okay, we'll try an example with the annotations also. What we have done so far, we have taken a class. For that, the class contains set methods. If it contains a set method, how do you inject a value? What if it contains a constructor? Okay, then how do you inject a value? That also we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take one application, which is Spring Setter Injection Annotation. Let's see. This is the latest version. Annotations means, okay, all latest versions. So we have auto wire, we have so many things, qualifiers and all. Name, application user, private application user, toString. Class is application, and this should be found application user. That means we are injecting a value, default value. 1 minute, Spring configuration class, one moment. application context view. So auto wild that I need to set it as a component. Oh, here everything. Company is my class. Contents CO auto wild, and the value also we are stating there itself. Auto wild required equals to true. Address company address. This company has a dependency on address class. So that's the reason we are taking that company address. Get company CO. Set company CO. Okay. Get company, we are writing the setters and address for the address class. Address being class. Auto void required equal to true. And the flat number and everything we are setting it here itself. We are not using any example file. Directly we are setting it the values for there and there. Okay. Main class. Company, we are getting the B. Hope we have this code. Let us check it out.
Mhm.
But anyway, and the thing is, Jyoti here, if you are trying to create an annotation based class, so normally, like let me tell you here itself. Let's try to create it. I have a student class, right? So what I'll do is I'll create an employee class. And to support this, I need the latest version jar files also. So the name I'm giving it as employee.
Okay, so the annotations only is independent of XML file, not jar files. Maven is independent of jar files.
Maven is independent of jar
Jar
files.
files.
In the sense,
I mean, you don't need to have jar files. Maven is going to take care of jar files for
no.
you.
Maven, if you work Maven, instead of configuring your build path manually, all the jar files, you will be getting a shortcut name that is called a dependency.
Okay.
That dependency I need to configure in the Maven. Okay. Now I will show you that project better with the Maven only. Let me show you with Maven. I'm going to create a new project.
I have an option called Maven project also.
Here also, but it is not the latest one. Here I'll find it.
So I can go for Maven project in the example instead of dynamic.
So here we can select it Maven project. Okay. But for here, I'm not getting, actually directly we'll get it. If not, from the, when you're creating a project, you have an option to select it. Okay, I'm selecting that. And here, location. What is that? Create a simple Maven project. Just say nothing. And now, filter. I want a quick start application. Quick start application. The quick start application we want, and artifact ID is nothing but my project name. I'll give the project name as first spring app with annotation. And that is my project. And group ID, I'll say it as com, and the project package is com.my pack. That is my package name. And group ID is, you can give anything. As we are doing a basic program, spring annotation. So that is my group ID. This is my project name, and this is my package name. You need to change these things, and it will create versions by default. See why this version says we will be giving a code to client. In that case, first version, and later on some changes I have done. It has to be considered as a second version. I need to give it as a second version, 0.02 or something. We can give it any other name. That's our wish. So v-1, I'll say version-1. So that's my project. My project, it's getting created. As it is my own project, it takes some time to set all the things. Now what we're supposed to do is we are supposed to add the jar files. So when you are working with the Maven, the thing is you need to go to the Google, and there you need to find the dependency. Maven dependency for dependency. Context. You need to select it as context. Maven dependency for context. If you want to develop core applications, the latest version they will say it as context. So in that, which one is the latest one, you can select it. I'm selecting the first one. So this is my dependency. Control C and take them and paste them to your project. Where will you paste them? You have a pom.xml. Open your pom.xml, and there you need to maintain the dependency name. So here the dependency, I'm copying and pasting it away. When I added this dependency, you will be getting all the jar files. So I have only JUnit. Now I say control S, I said So it takes some time to add all the jar files from the internet. Are you getting me? Can you see there?
Wow.
Hello?
It automatically took in all that?
Yeah, it is checking automatically. From the internet, it will, if you need to have internet connectivity for that. If you type this dependency, so it will fetch the dependency and it is adding it to your project, and they'll be stored in the C drive. There is a repository, M2 repository. All the jar files are adding over there. So I got the dependencies to develop my Spring-based application with annotations. Now where I have to write the Java code, you will be having src source main Java. Your package will be created over there. So in the package, you have to create your classes and all. Now I'm going to create a class saying that a new class. Okay, we have an option to create an annotation. Okay, so I would like to create a class saying that new class, and I'm saying that employee class. Employee is my class, and here in the employee, we have another class, test class. Let's say main class. So where it is a standalone application, I need to run it. So that's the reason I'm going to create a main class and a test class. And here we have employee, we have employee, we have employee, we have employee class. Now I would like to create some properties saying that int e underscore id, okay, and what are those? Yeah, string e underscore name. I've created two properties. For these two properties, I would like to maintain setters and getters. Source generator getters and setters. I've generated. I have two properties. For these two properties, I've generated getters and setters. Now I should maintain it as a component. I should make it maintain it as I should my Spring application when I run this. So when I run in the main with the main class, so it should identify the component. It is your component class. So for that reason, you need to say that you need to say it as it's a bean class, right? So bean class means it is a component in terms of annotation. So you need to write this annotation. Are you getting me?
Mhm.
So I made it as a component. So when you say component, you have to import from which package you are going to use this component annotation. We are going to use this component annotation from the framework, ORG Spring framework. So that means I'm going to make it as bean class. Employee is going to be a bean class now for me. Now I have two properties. I need to set the values for them. If I have an XML file, I'll be setting values for that. But we are not using XML file as it is annotation based. You have to set the values on top of it. Okay. So what I'm taking is I'm saying auto void required equals to true. That means what is the status of this? Required. Yes, it is compulsory. I need to give the value. So I'm saying on top of the property true, and I'm giving a value. So in the same way, for my integer ID, what I'm saying is I'm saying that EID is required, and these two are annotations which are available as part of the same thing package. I'm going to import it. So this is the way I have created, and I'm saying the ID should be something like double one I have created. And the same way I have other property also. The other property is not a string, it's a value. So I need to set the name, employee name, and set it as something like Shruti. So I've set it, the employee name, on top of your string. I have two properties. For these two properties, I've set the values and I made it as a bean. This is going to be a bean. Now, what I have to do, I'm skipping my XML file. Now, what I have to do, in the main class, I need to get the bean class. If it is an employee class, I would have a get that XML file, and then I would have get the things. But that is not an employee class. That is sorry, that is not an XML file. That is an what do you say? I mean, an annotation class. So we need to get them. What we are doing is for that, you have to write two things. This one, Control C, Control V, Control C. I'm writing a toString for these two variables. Do you know what is toString?
Yeah, if you don't write toString, then the values it will be giving the memory address. If you want to get the actual object names, the values you have given, then you might want to use the toString method. Like getters and setters, we can set the toString method also. Like we can generate.
Right. So we are writing a toString. We are overriding a toString so that directly I can access that object reference. I don't need to write any display method or something. Annotation context dot get bean. Get bean. What is that bean? What am I getting is that is employee. Component name I need to give actually, but where? One moment. Context dot campaign. These are all two components. Value equal to company one. Yeah, that's it. They're the value we need to give. I'm sorry for that. Let's see if everything goes fine. It works. Otherwise, I need to fix. What it is saying? It's saying an exception. Has not been refreshed yet. Bean scan bean. Get the bean. Refresh your context. Get the bean of VM, which is available already. Why it's not going? Java at all. No bean named mbmp1. The component is only your bean employee. For this employee, I've given mbmp1. Anything additionally we have to give? Nothing. Import bean. Okay, the package. I need to import it. That's it. They're in the same package. Still. Okay, bean information I have to give it here. What do you think, Jyoti? Now it will run?
Yes, sir.
Your guess is correct. So the thing is, here we did a mistake. The mistake is we have to give the base package. The thing is here, if it is XML file, we are making in the XML file that is as a bean. Now, for this class, I'm going to read it as a bean somewhere else. To make it as a bean, I have to use at component.
Okay.
And that at component value, I'm going to set it. So that means this employee, I have created a reference. That is emp1 is an ID for an employee object. Okay, I want to get that. Okay, if I want to get it, what I have to do is first I need application config context, which is a global one. Application config context is a global one. But previously what we have done is if we have an XML file, there is a different process. What is the different process? In the main method we have done. In the main method, what we have done is we have called a class path resource. It will fetch me application context.xml. From there I'm going to get XML bean factory, and from there I'm going to get my bean by using that reference. Now what happens is here we don't have application context.xml file, so we have one thing, we have globalized something, that is your application annotation based config application context. That is not a normal one. Annotation config context object. It does something backend with the help of the jar files, so that we don't need to worry. But what we need to pass is very important. What we need to pass, I'm telling that, hey, what is the class you need to focus and where is that class? I need to tell that. I'm going to tell that, hey, you have to scan the packages, the components. Component is your bin class. Are you getting me? You have to scan for the components in the package com.mypack. Okay, and refresh. So refresh, we are performing refresh if anything previously has been there or something, we want to the fresh one, whichever is the class is there. So I want to go for that now. So refresh it. Without refresh also we'll see what will happen, and refresh it, and then we are calling the bean, and this is common. Call the bean, and what is that bean name what you have given in your component as a value. Okay, so this is the only one which we have to identify as a bean. And now I got to know that if I call emp1, it's going to return to me a bean class. And now you can call your reference. We have already converted as a string. Makes sense, Swati? So this is our first Spring application with annotations. So it says if you don't say refresh, I'll not work. So there may be some reason we have this refresh. So we need to refresh it, and then it's working fine. Sir, what I would like to have multiple beans now. Then what do you have to do? I have here only one bean. Can I rewrite the component as multiple times? What do you say, Jyoti?
But
We cannot write now. This is not possible. Okay. Right. Then what we have to do here? See, anyway, emp1, if I get it, how many times I want to call, I can call it. emp1, if I get it, what it is going to return to me? Employee object, right? Hello?
yeah.
Yeah, it's going to return to me employee object. So I can't write that one as a multiple annotations. I cannot give employee object, and whatever you want to perform, you can perform on that. So now what I'll do is Control C, Control V, and I'll make it as emp2. This thing I can do, right?
Yeah.
Multiple objects.
Display emp2.
Sorry. Makes sense, Jyoti. What if I would like to give multiple values? Can we give multiple values? I have only one value, that's fine.
We oh,
Change in error form.
maybe we can pass as parameter.
This we have to find it off. Required equal to true. Required means I need to give the value over there. Right. You have maintained it as a required, so compulsory you need to provide a values there. Okay, auto wired, I'm sorry, required true you said, no? So that means you have to provide the value then and there. That's fine. What if I would like to set multiple values? So then I have to set it over here. emp dot set employee ID, set employee name. That's the only possibility now we have.
Yeah,
Hmm?
yeah. I was also thinking that only.
This let me check it out because we would like to check multiple values. At the annotation we cannot be able to use. There you are getting a bean, no? So with the same bean reference, you can set the values. So what will happen? You are not getting direct object anyway, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
not getting a direct object. You're getting an object in terms as a bean. So still the loose coupling is there. So previously we have something called component scan, but now they made it as component only component. That's what version to version changes are coming. Component scan in the sense it gives complete package name and class name. Hmm. And we have something called application. If I don't use annotations, I need to use application. That's it, Jyoti. Hope you got it. Huh?
Yeah, well, I'm
Can set
can.
multiple values over there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to get that object and we need to set the values on. That's the only possibility. But still, dependency injection is there over there. Just a minute. Spring annotation, Spring IOC, Spring IOC container, Spring bean overview, Spring dependency injection constructor XML, setter XML, cache abstraction. Spring IOC, Spring dependency, Spring auto wiring by name by type, Spring dependency injection. constructor annotation, setter annotation, all the things we have. Okay, that is one of the way we have to set the values. Just a minute. This will open. The same thing, I think. Setter injection. Don't really details. What is setter injection? But we are setting only one value. But he is setting the values for dependent object also. There is object actually. So he is setting with that object he's talking. Dependency there, no arguments for dependency injection construct. Okay, this is we find we can go for it because everything independent we have Spring Hello, Spring annotations. You need this code? No, not required.
No, I can get the recording, right?
Hello.
Maybe I will get the recording, right?
Okay,
I
fine.
can manage.
Right. Okay, see what are the annotations we have, all the things. Let's go. Depends, import. So the basic, there are many other annotations. Here is the major annotations what we useful for core or some other ways. So at component, at repository, at controller, and at service, at configuration, and at bean, and at scope, and at depends on, at primary, at lazy, at import resource, at value. These are the annotations, major annotations what we have. Apart from that, Spring is all about annotations only. So it is a generic stereotype for any Spring managed component with the other stereotypes like repository, controller, service, or a specialized form of a component. So repository, controller, service, all these are also forms of components. So then a component is something you are going to make it as a component so that it is called as a bean. That is like that. And repository is a component. It's a specialized form of a sub component. It's a component only, but it is a specialized one. How it is specialized one? This works as a marker for any class which fulfills the role of repository or data access object. Basically, when you use a repository, that means it's going to make your class as DAO. DAO means data related information. If you want to store it, then you can set it as a repository. Basically, we'll use it for interfaces. Okay, so component and repository same, but still component is used for classes, and the repository is used for classes only, but which contains the database information. Like when you're working with the JDBC, you are writing inside a single class, but you need to create all the JDBC properties in one class. Then you have to make it as a repository. Are you getting me? And controller is a specialized form of a component. It's also a component, but it is a specialized form. How it is a specialized? That in the sense which we are going to give a specific task. We are going to give a specific task, means so which is going to act as a mediator between model and view. There is something called a model and view. In between them, I want to make it as a controller. Controller means acts as a mediator. So if you want to make any class as a controller, if you make it at controller, that will become a controller. So that means controller, if anyone says, that means it is a mediator class. For what? For your model, that means your bean, and your presentation, that means your JSP pages. To which model will be associated with the which JSP, it has to take where that information, it will be taken care by controller. Make sense, Jyoti? We have seen component. Component is nothing but a class which contains setters and getters. Repository basically is used for a class which contains the database information, that is called a DAO classes. We'll be seeing them in future. And controller is an annotation. Basically, when you're working with the Spring MVC application, this is the word which you'll be using it as a frequently, very frequently you'll be using this word at controller, which is your controller class. because he's the one which controls model and view. And service, where your implementation we will be writing your service layer. So at service, I want to make it as some service layer. So to mark that particular class as a service, I'm going to use at service annotation. So that means almost Spring is performing simplification. So your identification, each and every annotation class, annotations is nothing but a Java class, has a separate implementation. We are not worrying about what is the implementation it has, but we got to know what we are going to do, because I see every time I need to go for a XML file configuration and all. So that is what is a bit complicated. So that's the reason we are making this is the component and this is the controller and this is a service on top of every class you are writing. This is what this is what this is what. Then done. It's very simple. Okay. And I wanted to say configuration. I would like to say some configuration information or else some database information or else some any configuration like session factory. You are not aware of session factory. If I explain to you being hibernate, you'll be getting to know there is some configuration. It might be any configuration, property files, anything. You will be setting some globalized information. That is called configuration. That globalized information, if you are preparing it as a class and you want to share between the different classes, then you have to set that class as a at configuration. Here we are setting a globally. Generally what should be there, globalization. If I have a if I'm working with a MVC with a database, means obviously my database should be globalized information. Then I need to give a separate class and I need to make it as a configuration class. Make sense, Jyoti?
Mm-hmm.
At bean, this is the term what we'll be using basically. So when you're working with the what do you say, component or bean, both are same. We can say component or we can say bean, but still bean was we can say bean is nothing but a reusable component. Basically component is uh, is a class which contains setters and getters basically. And
Mm-hmm.
previously okay, and bean is any class. Bean can be any class which has a specific purpose. So bean means I'm going to reuse it. I can make any class as a bean. When I'm going to reuse it, when I got to know that which should be repeatedly called, then I'm going to get it. I'm going to call it as a bean. In terms of Spring 3, all Java classes are beans. But in terms of Spring 5, they have come across and they are splitting more in terms of this is should be bean, this should be has component, this should be. They're more elaborating. I mean, they're more. They're specific. This should be suitable for this. So when you keep on calling any class separately, make it as a bean class. When you have a prototype of any form or something, then make it as a component. Are you getting me?
Mm-hmm.
So this is my class containing a configuration information, and in that I have some other classes which have been configured, and that classes I'm going to reuse it. That's the reason I'm going to make it as a bean. So it is a method level annotation which works at configuration as method mentioned above. So it is same like a bean in your XML file. It can also use it in component class. Anywhere you can insert bean. It's not method level. Anywhere you can. Okay. Oh, okay. This one thing I would like to tell you here. So
Mm-hmm.
there are some annotations which can be used at class level, and there are some annotations which can be used at a method level. So bean is saying that you cannot use at class level. You have to use only at method level. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's it.
Okay.
So that's all, Jyoti. So the remaining things we have that we'll be seeing in future. Okay, we'll be working on them. Hmm? Any questions so far? So we have seen a Spring basic application, annotations with annotations, and without annotations. So I'm comparing the things. Okay, so that it will be like you have to get what is the difference and all,
Mm-hmm.
right? Thank
Mm-hmm.
you, thank you. Any questions, Jyoti?
No, no, I'm good.
Yeah, how do you find the Spring?
Well, I haven't yet executed, right? If once I start executing, maybe
Mhm.
I'll get little hands-on experience. I mean, starting ones are fine, like when we're entering, I have to try out with the annotations. I'm not sure how far the annotations are gonna work. Like XML, if they don't work, then it's gonna be irritating.
Okay, don't worry, we'll fix it up. Anything is there.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Mhm.
study step by step what are the annotations and simple applications we'll develop in the starting. So that
Sure, sure,
grow complicated. Huh? Thank
sure.
you, Jyoti. Have a good day. Hmm?
Yeah, you too. Thank
Thank
you.
you.